Well, we're really excited to play Ole Miss. Have a lot of returners starting on their offense, 8. And, of course, everybody knows about Matt Corral and all the wonderful things he's doing, and he's earned all that respect that he's getting. And they have a really good group of running backs, and Ely and Parrish and Connor. I mean, they're rushing the ball over around 250, a little bit more than that a game, or a little less than that, I believe, a game. Great wide receivers. Have a veteran group on offense. On defense, the portal has been very good to Ole Miss with, Otis Reese transferred in from Georgia and Chance Campbell in from, I believe, Maryland. And both those two kids are their top leading tacklers. And they brought in some nice pass rushers, one from a couple of junior colleges. So their defense is playing extremely well, physical, run to the ball. And we're looking forward to going over there, but we know we have a great challenge and a really good football team that we're getting ready to play.
Matt Corral is pretty elusive and a great passer. How do you contain him? I don't know if you stop him. How do you contain him?
Well, that's a really good question because he is fast, and they're not running as many design runs with him, as I thought they might. I'm sure the reason is because when he throws it, there's a lot of yards gained. But we're going to have to set the edge on him. He obviously can take up running up the middle on us as well, but we're going to have to push the pocket and set the edge where, there's really nowhere to go. And if we can do that, we'll have some success. We have to move him. If he stands in the pocket, he'll pick us apart. And we know that, but he's just a fine player. I went back and watched his interview after our game, and I'm sure he's going to be really excited to play us because, in his words, he didn't play very well, and so we're looking for his best effort, like he's been given each and every game. But he'll probably have a little bit more on this one because of last year.
Yeah, I was thinking that's going to be a really cool chess match, is that you defended them so well. So, what the countermeasures are and what you guys come back with to try to contain their attack, because you did so well last year.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly have some different things that we'll do this year than what we did last year. We've got that in the plan, and we'll see how it looks today at practice. But we can't do identically what we did last year, because if we do, he'll pick us apart. So we'll certainly put some wrinkles in there on defense.
An interesting facet to this game, you guys both played, the big boys last week, but you didn't drop very far in the polls. What do you think maybe that says about your program and their program?
Well, I can't speak for them, but for us, we played teams, that are good. We've beaten a couple of ranked teams, and I think it says everybody has that much respect for Alabama and Georgia, which they've given no reason not to, to this point. But I think that's probably what it says mostly. Both of us were on the road in a very intimidating, hostile environment. And I don't know how Ole Miss handled it. Obviously, I watched the tape, but I know it intimidated us, and we didn't play very well. And part of it was because of the crowd. Certainly had something to do with the false starts, but I think people just have a lot of respect for Alabama and Georgia's program. Plus, I think a lot of teams ahead of us lost as well.
Sam, everybody thinks about Ole Miss, passing and Corral and all that, but they led the SEC in rushing last year.
Sure
and
did.
They're a pretty good rushing team. I know as a coach, you probably know that, but I think maybe media and fans have a misnomer. What do you think about their rushing game, and is that kind of underrated?
Well, I think so, just because Corral's so good, and they're wideouts, but they have really good backs. I mean, they break tackle and they're fast. And, they led it last year. I don't know where they are as far as in the SEC this year, but have to be high because they're right around 250 yards a game. I believe that's the number. It's close to that. And, they run a very similar offense running wise that we do. A lot of zone fills, a lot of nakeds off of that, a lot of stretch plays, and they run gaps like we do. So very similar running style of runs.
You alluded to the transfers they brought on. Defense was kind of a Achilles heel for them.
Yeah.
And I know, Alabama, they're going to score that many points on a lot of people. But what do you think about their defense and maybe how they've improved?
I think if you go back and watch the Louisville game, to start the season, they were much, much better than at any point than that they were last year. Now, I will say this, they improved each and every week last year on defense. They ended up having pretty good defensive ball club by the end of the year. But you can see their transfers, and sometimes new people coming into your program bring a different edge to the program as well. And I don't know if this was the case or not, but I know Campbell and Reese have really added, and of course their rush edge guys that they've added to, because Sam Williams can really rush the passer along with 96 Isaiah.
Coach, you mentioned not being ready for the early start last week. You have to do that again. So what do you do differently in practice this week to overcome that?
I didn't hear the first part of it.
Not being ready for the early start last week.
Well, I mean, I think that's 100% correct. I think Georgia had a lot to do with that. I don't know exactly, except learn from last week. I don't know that we can do a whole lot about when we have pregame. I don't know that we can practice at 11. We did in the fall. I think it'll just be try to get a different mindset going in there. Honestly, I think everybody saw we just weren't ready for the grand stage yet, and that's all of us. And this is going to be a big stage because it's ESPN and all those things. But, the college game day atmosphere, the 93,000, there was a lot of kids after the game, after I spoke with them, said it's the loudest crowd. They haven't ever been in anything like that before. And we tried to simulate it in practice and obviously didn't have it turned up loud enough. But I think just try to learn from this experience that we just went through and try to learn from that. And I don't know that we'll have any different wake up or anything like that. I know I heard that Kirby played, I don't know if it's true, but I heard he played music in the locker room and things of that nature. We were trying to just go with status quo because we had practiced it for a week in fall camp. And obviously we all saw that, we didn't do it the right way. So we're still thinking about what we might do on Saturday to change that up.
Coach, I had a couple of special teams questions. The block punt, you've had 4 of them now since you've been here.
Yeah.
Have you been able to identify, is it a protection issue, an operation time, or what's going on those?
Well, we changed our protection from a year ago, and Scott went and studied with a lot of different people and tried to simplify it, to be honest with you. The one versus Rice was just we didn't block out on a guy. And he wasn't trying to block it. He just wasn't blocked. And he ran in there and blocked the punt. That was just a mental error. The one Saturday, basically they had what we call the hog, and he was on our zone side, and he came on the snap of the ball back to our man side, which basically on what happened, it made us outnumbered. And to be honest with you, there was 2 things that happened. We got beat at right guard, and the right guard, his man kind of ran into our personal protector, and which basically meant we hit half of the guy coming in to block the punt. And our punter was also outside of the wedge of the protection, and he's got to stay inside that protection because we're blocking inside out on that. And so the bottom line is we adjusted on it, but we can't get a punt block and then go to adjustments. And so we're going to change a little bit of things that we are doing just to make sure. And, Scott and I have talked about it, and I said, we just cannot have another block punt. It's just, crushing us. And he knows that, and I know that. The whole fans know that. But we have to be ready for looks that we haven't seen. and that we're sound in whatever that is. So we're going to do something a little bit different this week and see if that can't get us to where we don't have one blocked.
And then on kickoff returns, I know like on punt return, there's generally like a rule, like you don't catch it, you don't back up from the 10 or whatever. On kickoff returns, what's kind of the general rule? Like when do you know when to return it, when not to return it with the new fair catch rule and everything?
Well, I think it all depends. Like, I don't know if at the game, if y'all felt the same thing I did. We were coming in to return. I mean, we want to return anything that's 1 yard deep or better. So if we're 1 yard deep, we're bringing it out. If not, we usually stand on the goal line. And if he steps back one step, we'll let him bring it out. But I don't know if you felt it. I did. That first kickoff, it was in the air forever. And so immediately, I think we brought it back to the 17 or 18 yard line. And immediately I went to Scott and I said, hey, we got to fair catch everything because they're going to make us return the football with this height. I counted 7 guys inside the 25 yard line when we caught the ball. Well, I mean, they're running full speed and we're not, and so that was a deal which, he had kicked most of his out. And so they went into that first part, kicking a high ball, timing ball, one that you could return. And so immediately we wanted to fair catch the rest of them because we knew that, 25 yard line is going to be a lot better than the 17 or 18. And unfortunately, AJ dropped it, when he he was a freshman as well. I think a lot of times, when you talk about things, sometimes it's perceived as an excuse. It's not an excuse. He's a freshman. He hadn't been back in that situation enough and he dropped the ball. That's not an excuse. That's the truth. And I wish he wouldn't have dropped it. He wished he wouldn't have dropped it. We got the ball on the 7. And at that point in time of the game, you're like, oh, Lord, we don't need it on the 7 down here because we're back in that end zone area where we can't hear. So it was unfortunate, but we had made a switch on what we were going to do. And that's what we tell them.
With the offensive line, because you've been so successful the first 4 games, do you do anything different in practice after a game like the last one, or just keep doing what you've always done? I
think every week you look at your personnel and you certainly want to get the best players you can on the field. I don't think that what you do is you learn from a game like this. You learn as a coach, what you did wrong as well. But I don't think if you've had success prior to, you can't just say, well, Georgia's that good, but they are. And so you have to figure out, is our personnel strong enough to block elite players? And so we're going to look at some different combinations in there. We're going to get some guys to challenge inside at the guard spot to see if we can't get a little heavier, a little more physical in there. We'll give St. John and Crawford some chances to go in there and play a little bit. But we're not firing people because of that game. But we're always looking to try to get better and possibly, those 2 kids have been playing out at tackle. St. John played a lot at guard, or some during the game at guard. And he's just a bigger, more physical guy. Not saying he's better, but I think those 2 guys, we're going to move inside and see if there's opportunity for them to play for us.
Coach, we talked a little bit right after the game about regrouping and not letting the game beat you twice and stuff. I was just wondering, and I know you hadn't practiced yet, but I was wondering if there was any specific incidences with the leaders or, the older players on this team where they have, said something to make sure that message has gotten across, I guess, internal leadership. I guess.
I wouldn't know if they did, to be honest with you. I think we've all in one realm or another, we've gotten the heck kicked out of us at some point in our life, whether it be at home, whether it be physically, whatever it is. And the only way I know how to do it is you get up and you brush the dirt off, you brush whatever it is, and you go back to work. If we do a tremendous amount of difference in what we've done before, I mean, look, we've been underdogs in 14 of our 16 games, including Saturday. We've never been favored to win an SEC game. We're doing things right. We just got to do them better. And so if I make a mountain out of a molehill because we went and got kicked, we got to correct the situation. We got to do better. We got to cut the penalties out. We've got to do better. And we got to coach better. But if I go totally off and start having meetings with the players and all this stuff, I think I'm sending a message that I'm panicking, and I'm not, because we got a good football team and we got our butt kicked by a really good football team, and we don't like it and we're not accepting it. But I'll be damned, George is going to make us lose this Ole Miss game.
Just flipping over to defense, you touched on it a little bit with transfer portal, but where's their strengths? Maybe some areas that really stand out to you.
Who you talking
For
about?
Ole Miss,
Ole Miss. You're talking about offense, defense.
their defense.
They're running the ball. I mean, they're playing. To me, they're playing really, really hard. I think they're playing better than they were last year. And their safeties will smack you. I mean, they're. If you look at them, they play a very similar defense that we do. And whereas if you look at our strength, and first thing you'd say, well, where's your strength? Well, probably in that safety area, guys that can go run the ball. But, then you go, well, maybe linebackers, For them, it's their safeties, and they're doing a really good job. Now, I like their nose 55, KD Hill. He was good against us last year. A guy that is playing faster. He's stronger. It looks like, he's locking up centers that he's playing against. I think Campbell at linebacker makes them better. I mean, he's making a lot of leading the team. But if you look through that V, you got 55, then you got Campbell, then you got Reese. Those are the three, in my opinion, three better players, three better leaders on their team right now. And it's right down the middle where they can go either direction. And I think that's what made them a little bit better. That and they're playing extremely hard. They're confident.
I think this series is maybe one of the underrated series for Arkansas fans because it dates back, played a lot when Arkansas was in the Southwest and Ole Miss was in it. And you've been involved in some of the most classic games that's ever been played. So I just wonder what you think about the rivalry maybe with these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was here in 14, and I don't know if that was 17. I think LSU was 17-0, but I don't know what this one was, 30-0. And they had some premier D linemen and all that. And we were on a roll at that point, and I can remember that and how physical the game was. And then I guess the next year in 15, was a Hunter Heave, and man, what a game that was. Go down in history of Arkansas. I mean, what a wonderful game, and went for two, and the quarterback ran in there, and Allen went in there on that. And then last year, getting our first home win in SEC in however long it was, that was a big deal. So, to be honest with you, Ole Miss and Arkansas, to me, ought to be a rival game, sort of like us in Missouri, and I think it's working its way into that more and more because, again, you see probably two very similar as far as talent, teams and things of that nature. And I'm not discarding Corral because he's exceptional, but probably two teams very similar talent-wise.
And how you hear anything from KJ on how he came out of the games? He's feeling better and everything.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely 100%. So that was good, and I wanted him out of there in the fourth quarter because I felt like he was healthy, and Malik needed an opportunity to go in there in that type of environment and see what he could do as well.
I just wondered how well Lane Kiffin, and he's a pretty flamboyant guy. Maybe not, you guys are a little different personality wise, but he's obviously a great offensive. I just wonder how well do you know Lane, and what do you think of him?
I don't know Coach Kiffin well at all. we've been together in recruiting. You know, I've seen him at different schools and visited and things when I was an assistant coach. You know, his dad came over in 1978, and his dad watched the Miami, Oklahoma Grove, Oklahoma game in 1978, and Miami was number one, and we were number 100 in the league below them. And they ended up beating us 21-16. They scored late in the game, and Coach Kiffin came into our locker room and talked about the fight and the grit of the Grove Ridge Runners. And I just remember that, and I shared that story with Lane last year before the game, you know, that I really had a lot of respect for his dad, and obviously was asking how he's feeling and those things. But I don't know Coach Kiffin real well, but I have a lot of respect for what he's doing there at Ole Miss. I can tell you that.
Yeah, one quick follow-up. I saw a lot of video after the game, after you talked to Kirby. Must have been, I don't know, 25, 30 Georgia guys. It wasn't just linemen, you know, let you coach. It looked like a lot of guys. I know it's a tough day, but how'd that make you feel that all those Georgia kids wanted to?
You know, that's a tough situation, to be perfectly honest with you, because you're at Arkansas, you're loyal and love the University of Arkansas, and you just got your butt ever living kicked. But you got, I don't know how many people it was. You know, I saw a bunch before the game, but I don't know how many kids it was after the game. And you can't just turn around and run in the building. You know what I mean? I know that's not your question. You want to give respect for those kids because they're sitting there waiting on you to talk to you. And I loved every second of it. I hated every second because of why I was standing out there at 37-0. But as a man, sometimes you got to get knocked down and get back up. And those times right there, I needed to do what I wanted to do that. I wanted to show them respect. But it's hard, you know, guys. I mean, put yourself in that situation, man. It's hard to be. You don't know what to do. You don't know what's right. So I just did what I thought was right and paid respect, and it made me feel awesome that the kids would wait on me and talk to me.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, everybody.